Hello YouTube. Today we're going to do a trigger mod on this 760 Pump Master. It's a 1992 model. It has a rifled barrel on it. This is Model D, and I had a 1995 Model D which did not have a rifled barrel. So I've heard the Model Ds have rifled barrels, and that 1995 model it didn't, and this one does. So today I'm going to do a trigger mod on this thing and see if I can't smooth out that trigger and do a little tweaks to it. So let me go ahead and take it apart and we'll look at it. Okay guys, I've got it apart now, and I got the trigger assembly here. So the trigger's not very smooth. It's not very light either. It's not a very good trigger, but let's disassemble it. And I already bent that a little bit, try to weaken it up a little bit. That was straight there, so done a little bit to it. But let's see, this right here, probably need to smooth that up a little bit. Maybe take some off right here and smooth this up. See if I can't get this whole thing to be a little bit smoother. And then we got the trigger. So let's take the trigger apart. Now there's a spring underneath there that takes off, and see if I can do something with the trigger. And then we got the safety that keeps you from firing the gun while it's cocked. That's important. And of course the little old spring in here. So I'll just put that right back there. I'm not messing with it right now. So there we have it. And wait a minute. Alright, right there. I've already bent that a little bit to take some tension off the trigger, but it's just not smooth. So in a trigger mod, you want the smoothness of the trigger is really most important. Having a light trigger isn't necessarily important, and I've kind of avoided this subject because of well, everybody talks about a trigger mod, but nobody talks about a drop test. And I think the standard for firearms is like a 4-foot drop test, and this is a plastic receiver, and you know, I will be testing this assembly after I mod it and making sure that it's safe, making sure that it's not accidentally going to go off because it's jarred or dropped or something like that. So I'm going to examine these components and see what can be done about this. And this right here I believe is hardened, which means a file ain't going to cut it. I'm going to have sandpaper, but I'm going to check that and see what I can do about that. So I'm going to set this aside and start looking at the trigger components here and seeing what I can do about this, making the trigger a lot more smoother. I mean, you know, it's got an assembly like this, and it basically does that right there. So this to see what I can do, and maybe make it a little bit more lighter, but make it smoother. Having a smooth trigger is really the name of the game. So, okay guys, this right here, like I said, it's hardened. A file's not going to cut that. So what I do is I simply take my sandpaper, wrap it over the file. The file gives me something straight to work with, and then I start lightly sanding on the areas that the trigger come in contact with, and making it shine real well. And that does a lot to smooth up a trigger. Now this is the shear, and right up against there, that's where it actually catches the hammer. So I'm going to smooth up that a little bit and get it to where it's this shiny, to where it's really nice. Like I said, this is hardened, and it takes a lot of sanding to get it taken off any material. So it's just the smoother the better. I want the trigger to be smooth. Now it sits in there and the hammer catches right here, and then it slides off of it. So that area right there is really important, and then that's where, right here is where the trigger touches. So I want to smooth that up the best I can and get it really to shine. And like I said, this is hard, so it's going to take some work. And what I may do is take some off the very top of this right here, to where this is actually lower by a little bit, to where it don't have to move as far to let the hammer go. And it's going to take a lot of work to get that down a little bit, but I think I'm going to try that and polish this area and this area up a little bit, and just go from there and see what we got here. So okay guys, I've sanded on this a little bit, and what I'm doing is I got my sandpaper on my file, and I'm just rubbing it back and forth like this here, and it's taking a little bit off. Now I've been at it for a while. Like I said, this is hard, so it really takes a lot, and I want it to be smooth too. So what I'm doing is just sanding and sanding on it, and it does heat up a little bit. It's starting to get a little bit warm, but you know, like I said, it's hard. So let me see here. Let's straighten out this part of it. Polish that up, then let's turn it back over and apply some pressure on that, and see if I can't get it down a little bit. Alright, so took some off the top there, and then I polished the front here, and then I polished where the trigger sits, and it, like I said, it goes in there just like that, and that's the function of it. That's how it works. So I think I polished that up real nice. So now then, I don't know what can be done with the trigger. Let's get the trigger and look at that one. Okay, the trigger looks to have a little spot right in there where this rides, in that kind of configuration right there. And I don't know if I can get in there to sand that a little bit, or just what I can do about that. So let's see if I can just polish it a little. Yeah, that's a difficult area to get in. But yeah, that seems to be well, that seems to be helping a little bit. Just doing the best I can to get into that area and smoothing it up. And yeah, that's about all that can be done. I mean, you know, that don't feel too bad. There's a scuff mark on there, but it didn't take much at all to sand it away. So yeah, let's look at the components and see how they look. Alright guys, I put it back together, and I don't have the springs or anything else in it. All it is the shear and the trigger. So I'm putting this on half cock and letting it slide up in there, and then I'm kind of easing the trigger open. And what I found was that down here where the safety is, the trigger is kind of dragging on this piece right down here. So let me take this out and take the file to it a little bit and see if I can well, get that out of the way. See, it's right in here is where it's at. And oh yeah, that's not going to be a big deal. Yeah, this be easy with it. You can always take it off, but you can't put it back, you know. So And this is the part of the where the safety latches through, latches onto the trigger, keeps it from firing. So you want to be careful of this part of it. And if you find the same problem in yours, just be careful and take a little bit at a time. And try it often. I'm going to sand this off, or pile this down a little bit. All right, so took a little bit off that. Let's see how it looks. Oh yeah, that looks a lot better. All right, let's reassemble this. And there we go. All right, again, let's put it on half cock. There we go. Yeah. And let's squeeze it off half cock. Oh yeah. Okay, that was the issue right there. There we go. All right, how's that looking? And let's squeeze it. Okay, now this is just on half cock. So you know, you on this gun, when you mod the air chamber, you got to put it on half cock to be able to pump it, or else the air just goes right through it and out the barrel. So on a valve mod, it's important to put it on half cock. Now, in a trigger mod, you never want to do anything that gets rid of the safety mechanisms of it. So you know, so this right here that prevents the trigger from being pulled when the bolt's open, I'll always have that on there. And then there's my safety here, which goes in there like this right here. So, you know, I'll always have that. So I never want to do anything that gets rid of that stuff. I want it to be as safe as possible, but also I want it to be smooth. So, you know, the smoothness of the trigger is really the name of the game. You know, when you're shooting at a target or trying to hit something, 10% of your concentration's on the target. 90% of your concentrations is on the trigger. So the trigger is actually very important, and you always want it to be smooth. Now, you can have a different poundage of trigger, how much it takes to pull the trigger back, but the trigger always needs to be smooth. So I'm going to look at the other components, the two springs I have left, and see if anything can be done with them that I already, you know, like I said, this area right here was straight and I've bent it, and this area right here was straight and I've obviously bent it, and I'm going to just see how those components go together and how they function all together. So okay guys, put this back together, and I bent this spring a little bit more, just a little bit, and also I have this spring bent. I have it bent here and down here. So just a little bit, just to take some tension off of it. So let's go ahead and I'm using white lithium grease to grease this up before I put it together. So let's do that. Go ahead and put this thing together and grease it up real good. So I'm going to put this spring in here first, and then I'm going to grease it just a little bit, just on places that look like they might come in contact with something, and you know, just grease it all around, and just a little bit. And let's put this in here. Oop. All right, then there we go. All right. Now let's grease that. Put some in there. There we go. Okay. Alright, let's assemble this part of it. There we go. Alright, now let's take this, put this a little bit of grease right in there. Let's grease up the hole a little bit, or the holes I should say. There we go. And last but not least, let's put the spring on there and the safety. So there we go. So I'm happy with it, and like I said, just pick out the spots and make sure it's all smooth, and then kind of pre-assemble it and see how it functions, and just kind of play with it. Like I said, don't get crazy, and let's assemble this thing and let's see how it looks. So let's put this back on here. Alright, put some screws in it. Okay, so alright, I'll go ahead and tighten these up and get the buttstock on there, and we'll go from there. Okay guys, well, I reassembled it, and this spring I bent it too much. So I'm still keeping this bend right here, but I straightened this one back out just to make it to where the safety functions correctly, and that way you know, there's no issues with that, and I don't want issues with the safety. So let me put it back together, and let me get this up to where I can put the safety in there. There we go. So, and there we go. So we got the trigger assembly all together. You got back here, you got the spring, got this all greased up, that safety to keep it from firing when the bolt's open. And I greased everything up, and I got a little small bend right there, but that's all I need. So, and then as you can see, I put tape on here to make this receiver fit the barrel better. And I got tape here too, and that makes the whole thing snug where it don't wobble around when I'm trying to shoot it, and it makes it more accurate. So so let me put this back together and see how it does. Okay guys, so got it put back together, so it won't, can't pull the trigger. Alright, put the safety on. Alright, and it feels good too, so you know, it feels really good. So, and it's smooth all the way through the action, and that's what we want. Now then, let's cock it, and safety on, safety off. And for the drop test, the plastic receiver, you know, when you tighten up these screws, you snug them up, not crazy tight, you know, just snug them up, and I don't know, you know, what kind of, you know, drop test needs to be done on this to make sure it don't go off. You know, I'm certainly not going to drop it 4 feet. I mean, it's plastic, everything but basically the barrel and the pump tube, so that's not, you know, but you know, testing the trigger is really important, making sure it don't go off, and making sure it's safe, you know, and you know, I don't want to tear up the gun, but I need to make sure it's safe. So I'm happy with this setup. You know, I don't want to be too rough with it, but I certainly don't want it to go off accidentally either. So making sure that it's going to do the trick, and I'm pretty satisfied with that. So let's well, I'm going to put the scope back on this, and then we're going to shoot it. Like I said, it was made in 1992. It's a Model D, and it's got a rifled barrel. So I'm going to put the scope back on, and then I'm going to compare it to this one. This is a 1981 Crosman Power Master. This has got a rifled barrel also. These are notorious, and they made them from basically 1980 to 1983. So I'm going to compare the two and see that how they compare against each other. Now this one has a steel receiver with a plastic bolt. That's how I distinguish them. You've got the older models with a steel receiver, but they have a brass bolt. So they kind of changed it, and then they finally went to the plastic receiver as well. So I'm going to compare this 760 Power Master with a rifled barrel to the one I just got through modding, and see how they stack up against each other. Both of them having a rifled barrel. One is a plastic receiver, and the one with the plastic, this one obviously has a trigger mod that I just finished, and the Power Master doesn't. So let me put the scope back on there and let's see how we do. Okay guys, got the scope back on, and got it sighted in. We're ready to go. We're going to be shooting 5-shot groups at 10 yards. So let's take off and see how it does. So okay guys, this is shot with the Power Master 760, and this one is shot with the Pump Master 760. The Pump Master has a plastic receiver, modified, and the Power Master is a plain stock gun. So there's where I shot, and like I said, on the right is the Power Master. I mean, on the right is the Pump Master, and on the left is the Power Master. So that's a pretty good group right there. And this one, we got 2 shots here, 2 shots there, and a flyer over in here or something. So, but there we go on that. Okay, and there we go. This is a stock Crosman 760 Power Master. I have not modded this gun at all. So, and this gun, let's wrap it up. Modded this, got an adjustable pump cup in there. The bolt, stuck that pellet on in the barrel a little bit more, and of course obviously I got trigger mod on this gun now. So maybe I'll look into checking that crown out, maybe re-crowning the gun. So there we go. Thank you guys.